Hi, and welcome to Mods. We're keeping you connected to inspiring science with virtual camp discovery, brought to you by Citrix, the museum's official innovation partner.
Safety first when mixing chemicals to create a reaction. In this experiment, you won't get 3 wishes, but you will get a genie in a bottle that can only be done by the chemistry pros at Mods.
Hi, welcome back to Mods. Today we're going to be walking through a chemistry experiment that's popularly called Genie in a Bottle. And that's because of the effect that it's going to have with a lot of vapor rising up, giving the illusion of like a classic cartoon or something of like a genie coming out of a lamp with a huge rush of vapor. But what this really is a chemistry experiment in which we break down a couple molecules. So our main ingredient here is 30% hydrogen peroxide. Now, the hydrogen peroxide that might be in your cabinet is much, much lower than that, even as low as like 1 or 3%. 30% hydrogen peroxide is very powerful. It's meant to break down bacteria and stuff like that. But what we really want to focus on is the chemistry of what hydrogen peroxide is. Water, take a water molecule, right? A water molecule is H2O. 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen. So 2 hydrogen atoms bonded to 1 oxygen atom. Hydrogen peroxide is H2O2. So 2 hydrogen atoms bonded to 2 oxygen atoms. What we're going to do today is we're going to use this catalyst called manganese dioxide, and just a little scoop of that should separate out one of those oxygen atoms from the H2O2. So leaving us with H2O and the rest of the O going up in vapor, right? And there's going to be a little bit of this stuff mixed in with both of those things. So at the start of this, we have hydrogen peroxide. At the end of this, we're going to have water and gaseous oxygen. So let's see how this goes. But this can be a little hazardous, so we're going safety goggles on, safety glove on, because like I said, this level of hydrogen peroxide can be pretty hazardous. So I'm going to measure out about 100 or so milliliters in this beaker. Pour it into this empty 2-liter bottle. Now something else might happen with this 2-liter bottle, and we'll talk about that afterwards. But we're just going to pour this in. Okay, so now we have just enough here that's covering our little dimples of the bottle. Now, these aren't necessarily ingredients that you're going to have around the house. This is chemistry lab equipment that you typically have to special order or be a museum or a school or a lab to get. But if you do happen to have this stuff around, at the very least, let's use adult supervision. So now to add in my catalyst here, the manganese dioxide. I'm just going to take a little pinch of this, and we're going to put it in with this, and we're going to see what happens. Okay, ready? We're going to go with 3, 2, 1. Now the bottle's getting pretty hot, and what happens with plastic when it gets that hot is that it shrinks a little bit. So you can kind of see this comparing. This is getting a little bit smaller than this, kind of slowly but surely. It wasn't that intense of a reaction. So we're going to try it again with a little bit more of each ingredient. Let's measure out about 200 milliliters of this. About 150 milliliters. See, now you can kind of see the size difference of the bottles changing as this settles in a little bit. That's because as the gaseous oxygen is released, this is creating some heat. And that heat is shrinking the plastic because plastic, like these bottles, is capable of fluctuating with temperature. That's kind of how shrink wrap works and a couple other things like that. So we see that shrinking a little bit. Let's try it a little bit more here for the second time around. Pour in our peroxide. for now. It's a little bit crinkled up too. So now let's add our manganese dioxide. And again, what's happening here is we're separating one oxygen atom out of the hydrogen peroxide. So it turns it from H2O2 to H2O, and then some extra O coming up out of the bottle. Ready? So here I have our oxygen being released in its gaseous form, which is what we can breathe is a little too intense and a little too hot for me to just breathe right in. But now we can see this bottle shrinking even more than the first bottle, just from that being shrunken down by the heat. This is what we call an exothermic reaction. And gives off the illusion of like the next thing to come out of this is going to be a genie that grants me some wishes. So we might have to wait on that a little bit. I don't see another genie coming out of this, but hopefully you learned a little bit about chemical reactions, and we'll see you again next time.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Virtual Camp Discovery. Special thanks to Citrix, Mod's official innovation partner, for powering this series. Please stay safe and connected with Mods by visiting our social channels at MODSFTL.